Picture this vivid scene. It's April 23rd, 1981. The time of year when winter coats have been stowed away, relegated to the back of the closet. The landscape is dotted with the bright yellow of blooming daffodils, a true emblem of spring. Easter celebrations were recently filled with the kind of sunshine that warms your back and heart alike. But then, without warning, the sky transforms into a strange white canvas. Snow in April defies expectations. This is not just a light sprinkling destined to disappear by lunchtime. It's a substantial snowfall, the kind that cloaks entire vehicles and brings traffic on major motorways to a halt. Snow like this has no place in April, yet here it is. For 4 consecutive days, Britain finds itself in the throes of a blizzard that seems borrowed from January's harshest days, completely out of sync with the season. Caught off guard, nobody was prepared. Farmers stood helpless as their newborn lambs shivered and froze in the open fields. Drivers found themselves marooned on the M4, trapped for hours by the frozen barrage. Families, having jubilantly stored away their heavy woolen jumpers, now found themselves rummaging desperately to bring them back into action. This was the unforeseen snowstorm that blindsided the nation, an indelible memory now known as the April freeze of 1981. The ordeal began with deceptive subtlety. Mid-April had been a dream, with temperatures reaching a balmy 20 degrees Celsius in some areas. It marked the warmest early April in 2 decades. People reveled in the warmth, discarding jackets in favor of short sleeves. Gardens burst into life prematurely, a lush tableau of colors. Trees, adorned with vibrant new foliage, stood as proud sentinels to spring's triumph. Winter was a fading memory, banished by the unequivocal arrival of spring. Then, on Easter Monday, April 20th, the script flipped dramatically. An incursion of cold air barreled down from the Arctic, ushering in a biting northerly wind. The temperature plummeted sharply. By April 23rd, this frigid blast collided with an encroaching low-pressure system from the west. The consequence? A nation blanketed under heavy, unyielding snow, the curtain call to any thoughts of spring. In Dalwhinnie, nestled in the Scottish Highlands, the thermometer bottomed out at a bone-chilling -11 degrees Celsius on the night of the 23rd, marking the coldest late April temperature since 1908. Further south in Birmingham, the mercury struggled to climb past a frosty 3 degrees between April 24th and 26th. Where one might typically expect a moderate 16 degrees, perhaps just cool enough for a light jacket, people instead faced the drudgery of scraping ice from windshields, their breath-forming frosty clouds even indoors. The snow intensified its assault on April 25th and 26th. An imposing 20 centimetres fell overnight, blanketing southern and western England and Wales. Gloucestershire disappeared beneath a staggering 66 centimetres, more than 2 feet of snow. The Peak District wasn't spared either, with a consistent 60-centimetre snowfall blanketing the region. But the snowdrifts, those were the real adversaries. Immense walls of snow, towering 20 feet high, thwarted travel in Derbyshire and Staffordshire, some drifts reaching 6 metres. Roads were rendered invisible, swallowed by the wintry embrace. Your father may have gone to bed anticipating the gentle embrace of spring, only to be greeted by a world remade in white the next morning. The garden fence dissolved into the landscape. The car vanished beneath a snow shroud. Snow piled against the front door so densely that it wouldn't budge without concerted effort. This was not the light, powdery snow of fairy tales. This was dense, heavy snow, threatening to crack under its own weight. It was a punishing load that frayed freshly budding trees to their breaking point. Branches succumbed, falling with a sound that ricocheted ominously through the streets, a sharp crack followed by a dull thud. Each fallen limb represented years of growth dashed in an instant. Initially, the snow came in bursts, and the strength of the late April sun managed to abate some of it during daylight hours. Optimists declared this the end, sporadic flurries and nothing more. But as April 25th and 26th unfurled, the situation turned grave. The snowstorm turned relentless, a blizzard of unyielding intensity, as thick snowflakes fell heavily from the sky, refusing to melt. Despite the strong spring sun's best efforts to shine through, the overwhelming volume of snowflakes won the battle, blocking out the light and warmth. This wasn't just a dusting, it was a deluge, a constant procession of snow piling up in swift succession, building layer upon layer at a pace that far outstripped nature's ability to clear it away. The cities found themselves in the grip of winter's harshest touch. Birmingham experienced an unprecedented 10 centimetres of snow blanketing its streets, a sight that was mirrored in York. Urban areas that were more accustomed to mild winters faced a rare and unexpected ordeal. Sidewalks vanished under thick coverings of snow, and traffic came to an abrupt halt, frozen in place by the ferocity of the storm. Public transportation was at a standstill. Your mum's usual bus route was suspended, and your dad's train service was brought to a halt, cancelled due to the severe conditions. For those working in city centre offices, reaching their workplaces required traversing through conditions that resembled the treacherous landscapes of a Scottish mountain rather than the familiar pathways of a Midland high street. Meanwhile, power outages swept across the nation. Thick coatings of snow and ice accumulated on overhead power lines, their weight pulling the lines down and extinguishing power to entire neighbourhoods. Whole streets were plunged into darkness, deprived of electricity. Homes were left without heating or hot water, and families found themselves gathering around coal fires for warmth, if there was the fortunate presence of a coal hearth in the home. Elsewhere, candlelight flickered in window panes, at times dancing for hours as a sole source of illumination. Outside, the relentless wind roared, its powerful gusts driving the snow sideways, sculpting drifts that heap higher against buildings and garden hedges. What made being cut off in 1981 truly terrifying was more than just the inconvenience of isolation. It was the complete lack of communication avenues. When the phone lines went down, they didn't just flicker momentarily. Cables, under the immense weight of wet, heavy snow, snapped with alarming frequency, paralyzing whole regions. This was a time before the mobile phone had revolutionized personal communication, and long before the internet was a household staple. So if your telephone line died, it was as if your voice was silenced. No straightforward dial to emergency services, no easy check-ins with elderly relatives to ensure they were safe, and no certainty that medical professionals could navigate the treacherous roads to come to the aid of those in need. It wasn't uncommon for people to find themselves completely isolated from the world, sometimes for days on end. In cold, dimly lit houses, with no connection to the outside world, the sense of isolation deepened as the elements continued their onslaught. For travellers, the M4 motorway that snaked through the country became an extended impromptu parking lot. Swathes of it buried under snow drifts as high as 1.5 metres brought traffic to a standstill. Drivers sat helplessly in their vehicles, counting the hours, as snowfall turned familiar paths into deserted white mazes. Many eventually opted to leave their cars behind, bravely trekking on foot to nearby villages, trudging through knee-to-thigh-deep drifts, their shoes and clothing inadequate for such adversities. In Derbyshire, the Snake Pass, notorious for its serpentine curves and elevation, was completely shuttered amid fears of avalanches that seemed more apt for alpine regions than the British countryside in April. Avalanches. In Britain. In April. It was almost unthinkable, yet it was a reality. The cruel weather wreaked havoc in rural farming communities. April, the season of renewal, is also lambing season, a critical period when newborn lambs make their tentative steps into life. Caught off guard by the freezing temperatures and relentless blizzards, these fragile creatures struggled for survival. On the windswept expanses of Dartmoor, sheep bunched together against ancient stone walls, instinctively seeking shelter from wind gusts that cut sharp as blades. Many succumbed to the unyielding cold, leaving farmers discovering them the next day, statuesque and still, with ewes heartbroken beside young that never knew more than their first breath. Cattle were not spared the ordeal. Spring calves, birthed into mild weather only to face a sudden plunge into icy hostility, confronted conditions that defied the endurance of even the hardiest livestock. Farmers, waging a battle against time and nature, toiled continuously, ushering animals into barns, scattering additional straw for warmth, taking every precaution possible to stave off the wrath of the storm. Yet, nature's ferocity was relentless and livestock losses climbed to grievous levels, inflicting a crippling blow on families who already tread a delicate line to maintain financial stability. In a parallel world, across towns and villages, everyday lives twisted around the fickle weather patterns. Winter gear, thoughtfully packed away as a sign of spring's optimistic entry, was hastily retrieved. Mothers' exasperated muttering underscored how baffling this turn of events seemed. Winter coats, thick scarves, and knit caps resurrected from their premature retirement. The illusion of a budding blossom season was shattered for schoolchildren who found themselves wrapped in layers, their play clothes replaced with snug winter attire, rummaged from the recesses of forgotten closets. Schools, too, faced their own set of challenges. Attempts to maintain academic routine faltered as transport disruptions thwarted teacher and student commutes alike. Some institutions shut their doors when it became clear that the journey was insurmountable. Others persevered with skeletal attendance. The classrooms whispered of normalcy, but the rows were notably spare. Teachers, residing miles away, frequently surrendered to the relentless truths of nature's blockade. Absent buses, obstructed roads, and daunting weather painted a portrait of static silence. with children left at home wistfully gazing out of frosted windows, scanning the wide horizons. Yet, in the midst of this clamorous upset, children, with their indomitable spirit, found joy in the unlikeliest of scenarios. April had delivered an unanticipated gift, a phenomenon rare and delightful, and they didn't hesitate to cherish it. Schools might have stood empty, but hillsides came alive with exhilaration as sledges clutched anything that promised velocity. Fast-moving tea trays, appropriated baking sheets, and makeshift sliders launched them into flights of snow-laden fantasy. Street corners and backyards saw an explosion of snowball skirmishes, festive in their impromptu frenzy, while gardens bore eccentric sights, snowmen bedecked with remnants of spring, amid traces of fresh floral survivors. Spring and winter swirled together in a dissonant dance, crafting a wonderland both bewildering and surreal. Daffodils slept under blankets of snow, cherry blossoms wavered, encased in icy sculptures, tulips pushed defiantly through frosty barricades. The scene was fantastically daunting, a picturesque memory blurring the lines between two seasons, beautiful yet veiled in a fleeting, stark majesty. Throughout this challenging period, the resilience and camaraderie of communities shone brightly. Neighbors took proactive steps to ensure each other's well-being, asking not only if everyone was all right but also if anyone needed essential supplies like coal for heating or milk for breakfast. This wasn't simply a time of crisis but one of solidarity, where even strangers stepped up to aid those in need. Good Samaritans emerged to help push stranded cars out of snowbanks and clear pathways for elderly residents who struggled with the elements. It was the same indomitable spirit that had seen Britain through tougher challenges in the past, reigniting in the face of nature's formidable April onslaught. Instead of complaining about the situation, people took action and helped one another. As the days rolled on, nature displayed its formidable power. Thunderstorms on the 24th and 26th introduced a rare atmospheric spectacle, thundersnow. This eerie occurrence, where bright lightning illuminated the falling snow, painted a surreal scene as the sky flashed white on white. The thunder's reverberations could be heard echoing across the Pennines and down into the southwest, reaching as far as the Salisbury Plain and the Cotswolds. Winds reaching up to 40 miles per hour drove the snow horizontally, reducing visibility to near zero. Venturing outside was akin to confronting a frigid barricade. But then, on April 27th, the weather underwent another dramatic shift. Just as suddenly as the wintry conditions had descended, they retreated. High-pressure systems realigned, allowing milder air to sweep in from the west. The snow, which had accumulated up to 60 centimeters in some areas, began to melt at an alarming rate. This rapid thaw led to a new set of challenges as rivers, burdened with the sudden influx of water, burst their banks, and flooding became the next hurdle for communities to overcome. In the region of the East Midlands, residents experienced the worst flooding since the infamous deluge of 1947. Streets, normally bustling with the rhythm of everyday life, transformed into rivers with fast-moving currents. Homes that should have been sanctuaries instead found themselves vulnerable, as water invaded uninvited, rising up against walls and seeping onto treasured carpets. The generous fields that usually swayed with crops now lay dormant beneath expansive, unintended lakes. All of this chaos was compounded by the ground, which had been sitting frozen for days, unable to absorb the sudden influx of water from the melting snow. As a result, the water had nowhere to go but downhill, charging through towns and into homes, turning everyday life upside down. These families, already rugged from weathering a fierce blizzard, now faced a new adversary. The aftermath was more than just material damage. Carpets were ruined and furniture remained drenched. The ordeal of the cleanup stretched endlessly, dragging on for weeks, a stark reminder of how unprecedented this April snowfall had been. The snowstorm of 1981 wrote its own narrative into the annals of history, a story recounted for years to come. It was a blizzard that took everyone by surprise, a time when winter defied the natural order by returning in the heart of spring, a season meant for blooming and warmth. Yet, in the face of adversity, Britain stood resilient. Equipped with nothing more than shovels and a fierce determination, communities banded together. Neighbors who might have only exchanged brief pleasantries before became genuine friends, united by the shared task of recovery. Amidst the chaos, a sense of humor endured, the typical British way of laughing about the absurdity of the weather. That's the spirit here. We adapt, we persevere, and we